You're listening to Krimtime, a YouTube channel and podcast that focuses on cases involving serial killers. All of our cases are available in both Swedish and English. This recording may contain descriptions of violent crimes and should be approached with caution. If you feel discomfort regarding crime-related content, we advise you not to continue watching this video.
Irina Viktorovna Gaidamachuk, the silent widow killer. Irina Viktorovna Gaidamachuk was born in 1972 in a small village in Kurgan region in the vast cold Russian countryside. Her childhood was not unique for its time. An alcoholic father who hit, a subdued mother struggling to keep together a family slowly falling apart under the weight of booze. In the village, everyone knew who drank, but no one spoke of it aloud. When Irina was little, she often ran barefoot across the yard, dirty but with a watchful smile. Already as a child, she learned to read her father's mood, a trait that later would become her deadliest weapon. She knew when to stay away, when to be silent, and when she could ask for coins. In her teens, she tasted her first vodka. Some say it was her father who offered it. Others claim it was older boys in the village. Whatever it was, the liquor stuck like a shadow in her blood. School suffered. She barely finished primary school but refused to continue. No one around her expected anything else either. When the Soviet Union collapsed, Irina, like millions of others, stood on the brink of ruin. Unemployment rose, factories shut down. People who once had secure income suddenly stood without roof overhead. Irina moved to Sverdlovsk region hoping for a better life. There she met Yuri, a man who would try to save her but instead became one of her first tools. When Irina met Yuri in the early 90s, she was still young, 20 years old, with a battered but not fully crushed belief in the future. Yuri worked in a small factory on the outskirts of Krasnoufimsk. He was a quiet man, known for never raising his voice, one who dreamed of a calm life with a garden, kids running barefoot in summer, and dinners smelling of fresh soup. They met at a dance. Yuri saw Irina as beautiful, almost fragile. He fell for her gentle way, for how she tilted her head when she laughed. Friends remember that she then still had a glimmer of another future in her eyes. When they married, no one suspected what lay ahead. They rented a small house, she bore 2 kids, and Yuri tried to keep it all together. But the liquor was always there. First as something they drank together, vodka on Friday nights, a bottle on holidays. Then Irina began to drink alone, small sips in the kitchen when the kids slept, bottles in the cleaning closet, drops in coffee. Yuri, who drank sometimes but never at Irina's pace, soon realized her drinking was something else. He noticed when money disappeared from the pay envelope. He saw how household money, meant for kids' shoes, vanished. Several times he threatened to leave her. He took the kids to his sister in the village, but he always returned. His mother begged him to divorce. "She drags you down, Yuri." But Yuri said, "She is sick. She is the children's mother. I cannot leave her." When Irina was sober, she could be warm. She baked pies, brushed her daughter's hair, pinned the boys' drawings on the fridge. Those moments became Yuri's hope, proof that things might be okay. But just as quickly it turned. She could vanish a whole night, come home reeking of booze, without saying where she had been. Eventually, Yuri locked money in a metal cabinet. He stopped giving her cash. He bought everything himself, milk, bread, potatoes. Irina hated it. She screamed that she was not a child. He replied that she had to stop drinking, for the kids. For Irina, the power struggle over money was the last straw. When she realized Yuri no longer trusted her, she saw no other way. In her twisted logic, the old woman became the solution. She could leave home, say she would visit a friend, and come back with some bills Yuri knew nothing about. At first, Yuri thought she stole small coins. He never understood that the blood staining her coat once was another human's life. When the police came, he said, "My wife, impossible. She is just sick, not evil." For the kids, it was a childhood of whispers and slammed doors. Sometimes they pretended to sleep when Irina came home drunk. Yuri tried to protect them. But how do you protect kids from their own mother? Neighbors said afterwards the kids often sat outside on the steps late at night when the parents fought. Someone would give them a sandwich or a cup of tea, but no one intervened. It was a family matter, they said. Between 2002 and 2010, Irina ravaged Sverdlovsk region, mainly in small towns like Krasnoufimsk and Yekaterinburg outskirts. During these years, at least 17 elderly women fell to Irina's hand. She posed as a social worker or municipal official. The victims were almost always lonely pensioners, women who survived both Soviet times and post-Soviet misery. Many had worked all their lives on kolkhozes, in factories, or as nurses. Now they lived alone in small flats or wooden houses in suburbs around Yekaterinburg and small towns like Krasnoufimsk and Kamensk-Uralsky. Irina knew exactly how to play on their fear and loneliness. She spoke kindly, asked how they were, offered help with pensions or other social benefits. Once inside, she struck. She used an axe, a hammer, or sometimes a wine bottle to kill the victim. They had small pensions, often stashed in jam jars or pillowcases. Many were widows living on memories of another time. For Irina, they were easy prey. She knew they often let strangers in, especially a friendly woman claiming to come from the municipality. For example, Anna Petrovna, 82, former nurse, whom Irina killed with an axe in the kitchen when Anna had set the table for tea. Lydia Ivanovna, 78, who used to sit by her window waving to neighbors. One day she opened for Irina, who killed her with a hammer. Nina Fedorovna, 80, who just months before had lost her daughter and lived completely alone. Her body was found in the hallway, door wide open. After each murder, Irina took small sums, often just a few hundred rubles. Sometimes she stole a ring or a gold earring. The money always went to booze. She partied alone or hid in cheap bars until she needed more. Then she knocked on the next door. Neighbors were shocked every time news spread. Another one. How can this happen again? But the police often stood helpless. The trails were weak, evidence missing. No one suspected a woman. For 8 years, Irina managed to kill at least 17 women. Some suspect there could be more, but evidence is lacking. Neighbors whispered after each murder, someone should do something. But most pensioners lived alone because their children moved far away for work. Some tried calling the municipality asking for help, but were told there were no resources. Who could hire more home care workers when the economy already limped? Many elderly trusted strangers more than authorities. When Irina showed up at the door, neatly dressed with a folder in hand, they saw a solution for their loneliness. Someone to talk to. Someone calling them babushka, asking how the pension lasted. In reality, she read the room. Where did they keep money? Which door was unlocked? Were neighbors home? Murder after murder filled police archives. The crime scenes were messy but told the same story. No signs of forced entry, no sexual crime, just brutal head trauma and money gone. At first they suspected a man, maybe an alcoholic tramp. Several suspects were arrested. An older homeless man sleeping at Krasnoyarsk train station sat in custody for months until found innocent. For a while, rumors spread of a satanic cult. Others claimed a local gang held pensioners hostage. But every lead died. Only when Tatiana Mikhailovna survived did pieces fall into place. Her testimony forced police to rethink. A woman? It went against everything they knew about serial killers. When they traced Irina, they found her name on a list of people recently knocking on doors in the area. A patrol was sent to her house. Yuri opened, pale and confused. Irina sat in the kitchen smoking. She looked up, blew out smoke and said, "I knew you'd come." When Irina was arrested, Yuri first denied everything. He refused to believe the woman he shared life with could kill old ladies with an axe, but the evidence broke him. In court, he sat like a pale shadow behind the defense. When the verdict came, he left the building without saying a word to reporters. Witnesses say Yuri moved to another town. He took the kids, tried to start over, but in Krasnoyarsk, people still whisper about him, the one who married the monster. When police led Irina into the interrogation room in Krasnoyarsk, it was a gray, cold morning. It smelled of old tobacco, coffee, and cold concrete dust. A simple lamp hung from the ceiling. The table was scratched wood, the chair rickety. Irina sat calmly. She wore a simple cardigan and worn trousers. Her hair was messily tied up. She did not look like a monster, more like a tired, ordinary housewife who maybe forgot to buy milk. Opposite her sat Detective Andrei Volkov, a man who had seen stabbers, robbers, and abusers, but never a suspected female serial killer. He leafed through the yellowed folders full of photos of old women, bloodied hallways, tea gone cold on kitchen tables. Volkov leaned forward. "Irina Viktorovna, you know why you are here." She shook her head, calmly. "I did nothing. Why would I sit here?" Volkov pulled out a photo of Anna Petrovna, 82 years old, found in her hallway with a crushed skull. "Do you know her?" Irina looked at the photo. She shrugged. "Old grannies, they all look the same." Volkov laid out the next photo. And the next. 15 photographs, stacked. Old hands, broken kitchens, cardigans stained with blood. Irina did not flinch. 2 hours passed. Volkov asked the same questions over and over. "Where were you that day? Did you know her? Why did neighbors see you? Why did we find her ring in your drawer?" Finally, Irina sighed. She asked for a cigarette. Volkov lit one and handed it over. She drew a deep puff, blew towards the lamp. "What does it matter? They are dead anyway." Volkov felt his neck hair stand up. There it was, a crack. Once she started talking, she did not stop. Her voice was monotone, almost annoyed, as if explaining a household routine. I knocked. I said I was from the municipality. They always opened. Old women are lonely. They want to talk. I said I'd help with pension, check the electric bill. She described details, smell of ointment, ticking of a wall clock, how some always offered tea and sugar lumps. She remembered who asked her to sit, who went for glasses. When they turned their backs, I knew it was time. Sometimes an axe, sometimes a bottle. I hit once, sometimes twice. Volkov asked why she did not stop when seeing blood. She shrugged. I needed money. Booze runs out fast. You must have more. Volkov and his colleagues tried to stay stoic, but some shifted in chairs when she described wiping her hands on kitchen towels before leaving. She said she sometimes locked the door behind her. Once she left it open so the dog would run off, so no one would find the body right away. When Volkov asked if she regretted anything, she stared at him. Regret? What would it help? The pension doesn't come back. The vodka is gone. In the middle, for a moment, she fell silent. She asked about her kids. Were they with Yuri? Would they know? Volkov said nothing. He did not know what to say. It was like seeing a ghost of the Irina, who once was someone's mother, someone's wife. When the confession was done, Irina placed her hand on her forehead and whispered, "Now it's over." Volkov closed the folder. He knew this would shock the whole region. A woman, a mother, a housewife who knocked and left death in the kitchen. The officers who sat there that night still talk about Irina's interrogation, not for screams, threats, or tears, but for how quiet it was, how ordinary her evil sounded, wrapped in cigarette smoke and monotone answers. When Volkov stepped outside at dawn, he told his colleague, worst of all, she looked like anyone, and maybe that was what scared them most. When Irina Viktorovna Gaidamachuk stood trial spring 2012, the courtroom in Yekaterinburg was filled to the last seat. Outside the courthouse, TV crews, local papers, and curious townsfolk stood in clusters. Everyone wanted a glimpse of the woman who for nearly a decade spread terror among pensioners in all Sverdlovsk region. When guards led Irina into the courtroom the first day, she wore a simple dark skirt and a beige cardigan. She looked like anyone, and that made it more inexplicable for those staring at her. In Russia, the image of a serial killer was firmly tied to men, brutal, wild outcasts. Not a mother, not a housewife with messy hair. She kept her gaze lowered when she sat in the glass cage. Someone hissed devil. An old man whose sister was murdered stood and shouted, "Show your face, look at us." But Irina did not look up. The trial became as much a procession for the dead as a test for Irina. Each case was presented, one by one. The prosecutor described the victim's name, age, life story, how they were murdered. Photos showed on the screen behind the judge. Black and white portraits of old faces, some laughing at family parties, others from passport photos. Then crime scene pictures, a kitchen, a hallway, a toppled coffee cup, a scarf still hanging on a hook. Relatives testified. Voices broke with tears, fists slammed benches when someone recalled the last call. "I should have visited, but I didn't." She said she didn't open for strangers, but she trusted women. Irina's defense lawyer, a pale man named Pavel, knew he had a hopeless task. He tried to stress Irina's background, alcoholic childhood, poverty, psychological dependence. He read from a psych report showing Irina suffered severe alcoholism and social isolation. He claimed Yuri, her husband, partly shared blame by isolating her financially by refusing to give her money. She grew desperate, said the lawyer, but the audience murmured angrily. No one bought Irina's victim anymore. When it was her turn to speak, she rose, shaky. She pressed hands against the glass cage as if not to fall. Her voice was thin. She said, "I know I did wrong. I asked God's forgiveness. I had no choice. The vodka was stronger than me." The judge asked questions. "Did you understand what you did?" Irina nodded. "Yes." "And you continued anyway?" "I needed to drink. That's all I thought about." When she said, needed, a whisper ran through the benches. Monster. Russian papers called her the granny killer, the vodka monster, Russia's female ripper. Her face printed on front pages, often next to blurry photos of the dead women and shocked families. The debate raged. How could a woman in an ordinary neighborhood murder so many without anyone guessing? Why did it take police 8 years to stop her? What does it say about how old people live isolated in Russia's small town? During trial, politicians, social workers, and pensioner groups came to show support for victims' families. It became clear Irina's crime revealed something larger than a single perpetrator, a nation that failed its elderly. Local mayors held press conferences. Proposals came for more home visits, better support for lonely pensioners. But when the trial quieted, so did much of the commitment. When the judge, after weeks of hearings, read the verdict, the whole room held its breath. Irina Gaidamachuk was sentenced to 20 years in prison, the harshest sentence a woman could get in Russia at that time. Life imprisonment was not legal for women, a remnant of old law, assuming women could always be rehabilitated. Families rose. Some cried, others shouted in rage. 20 years? She killed 17. That's just more than a year per life. Someone threw a crumpled tissue at Irina. She did not move. Guards led her out silently. Behind the glass, she looked like someone thinking about dinner, not 17 old women never drinking evening tea again. When Irina was taken away in the police bus, a small crowd gathered by the parking lot. Someone spat as the car drove off. Journalists asked families what they would do now. A man answered briefly, "We'll bury our mothers once more, but we never get them home again." To this day, Irina's trial is mentioned in discussions of serial murder, female perpetrators, and Russia's demographic reality. It reminds that sometimes it's not the monster in the bushes one should fear, but the one knocking at the door smiling. Irina Gaidamachuk's case sparked debate far beyond the courtroom. How could a woman for nearly a decade murder elderly without getting caught? How could local social care fail so fundamentally? Why did so many pensioners live alone and unprotected in a society once calling itself solidary? In several regions, new guidelines were introduced. Elderly should not receive unknown visits without notice. Some villages organized neighbor watch and local pensioner groups. Still, the problem remained: poverty, loneliness, alcoholism. Irina herself sits today in a women's prison in the Urals. She is infamous among inmates. Some see her as a monster, others as a warning. She will likely never be free. Her name remains a nightmarish echo in Russia's crime history. Today, Irina sits in a cold cell block somewhere in the Urals. She is one of Russia's few female serial killers. Many crime experts have tried to understand her. How could an ordinary housewife become a predator in everyday clothes? Some say it's the alcohol's fault. Others say she was evil from the start. Maybe the truth is society sometimes creates its own monsters. For the survivors, it does not matter. They have their memories, their photos, and a loss no verdict can heal. So we close the door on a story of booze, loneliness, and betrayal. But the question remains, how many sit alone right now waiting for someone to knock? Who do we open the door for next time?
What do you think about the case you just listened to? If you're interested in more, feel free to check out our other crime stories. You're always welcome to send us tips on new cases. We'll consider them for future episodes. We hope you enjoyed listening, and don't forget to share Krimtime with others who enjoy this type of podcast.